the machine that we were using, right? This machine was doing graphics, cameras, replay, and also streaming. Like it's too much our own machine. Um, and so we hit that first stinger, um, and it showed the two-player images, and it worked, and like the crowd actually cheered. And then we showed stats, and the crowd was like, "Oh!" And they like kind of cheered at the time. They were like, "Oh shit, it's stats! Like we got statistics! Damn!"
Yeah.
And that was a really cool moment. And all those stats, none of that was automatic. All of those were by hand. If you ever get a chance to talk to David, ask him how he literally went back and counted every single placement from every tournament up until that point, and then maintained a spreadsheet for that.
Welcome to episode 5 of Brawlhalla Origins. On this show, I interview notable members of the Brawlhalla community to talk to them about how they found Brawlhalla and progress to how involved they are with the community today. On today's episode, I interviewed Toast. He's currently the Director of Esports for Brawlhalla and is best known for his work on tournament and stream production for major Brawlhalla events. Brawlhalla Origins is presented by Brawl Academy. Brawl Academy will provide the most advanced and detailed Brawlhalla courses and coaching specifically meant for helping beginner-level players get to Diamond. A small group will be allowed early access to Brawl Academy in late October, but if you want help quickly, replay reviews and coaching are now available. Sign up over at brawlacademy.com for more info. And with that, on with the show. Toast, welcome to Brawlhalla Origins. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, I've been really excited to talk to you ever since you agreed to come on the show. So glad to have you here. Let's go ahead and get started in kind of what we do here is we talk about everyone's origin story kind of with Brawlhalla and where they came from and what they kind of have gone on to do since they got into the community. So I guess we'll start at the beginning. How did you find Brawlhalla? How did you end up getting into the game? And what was kind of the draw that got you to stick around?
Yeah, it's fun. It was 2015, and I watched Northern Lion and his crew on the NLSS play the game, and there was like a creator tournament or something. We never got Bald Scarlet, which is a bummer, but like we could still get Bald Scarlet. That would be kind of sick. But I saw that in 2015. The game was in closed beta, and I was like, this game looks fun." Um, Whatever, and I kind of let it, whatever, kind of sit. So I didn't end up playing it. And then when it went out into open beta, which was, by my memory, Thanksgiving of 2015, I want to say, sometime around November, I grabbed one of my friends and we started playing. We were like, "Oh, this game's really fun. Hey, this is a really good time." And so we played doubles a lot, and we're just playing the game. We even we hotspotted our laptops on a college trip to Reno. Don't ever go to Reno. It's not worth it. And we played ranked, doubles ranked off of a 4G like phone hotspot for a while, and that was fun. And that's how it started. It was, hey, I found this from Twitch streamers that I liked, that I watched. They looked like they were having fun. Hey, it's open. We can get it now. It's free. The netcode is good. We can play together, and it scratches that itch of like, I grew up playing Melee. I grew up playing Smash, that sort of thing too. Not like going to locals or anything like that, but just like most folks did, like in their basement with your friends in middle
Yeah.
school and high school and elementary school. Like that was like how I grew up, and that was the fighting games that I played. And it scratched that itch that I hadn't filled right for a number of years. I basically tail end of high school, I just stopped playing a lot of video games, and in college too. Like I was busy with college and like life. So I didn't really game a lot in college, and so when I got this, I was like, "Oh, this is great. It does what I wanted to do. It scratches that itch, and it's fun."
That's awesome. So you eventually kind of went on to doing some streaming yourself, right? Kind of tell me, were you streaming anything before Brawlhalla, or was Brawlhalla like the first game you got into streaming on Twitch with? What was kind of what started your
Yeah,
streaming
it
journey?
it was Brawlhalla. Okay, hold on. I mean, maybe it was Brawlhalla. It was a couple things. I think I wanted to stream because it looked like fun. I had the tech for it. Um, but I think part of it was also I was in college and I was like dabbling with just the idea of streaming, and I think mostly it ended up being Brawlhalla because it was something that was quick and easy to pick up, easy to play, and like it was fun. But when I started, it was very touch and go. I did a little bit here or there.
Hmm.
I would stream my college house playing horror games. So it was me and my three roommates, and we would um, play, third or eight scary games, and we would stream for like 6 hours just with a couple of room mics, and just kind of play through a game, and that was fun. And that was a lot of it, I think, uh, until I graduated, and then I moved back across the country to where I grew up again, and moved back in with my parents, and I was like, well, I need a job, and I have free time, and this is something fun, and content creation is fun, so let's do this. It actually started with a YouTube channel,
Okay.
uh, which I still have. I'm not going to share that because I was doing Let's Plays. I was on the Let's Play subreddit. I like collaborated with other like small Let's Play wannabes. Some of them maybe still doing it. I don't know. I don't talk to them anymore. And I did that for a while. And that's where it started, is with that kind of content creation. And then I tried live streaming, and you know what it was, and it's still something I feel now, is that the immediate feedback of a live stream worked so much better for my brain than the
Mm,
amount of work that goes into post production for a YouTube channel. Like, to do good YouTube content, you need to edit, you need to plan, you need to do all these things, and you still need to do that with live streams. But the 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 feedback cycle is different, and with
right.
live streaming, that immediate feedback cycle is like so much more the thing that just worked for me. And so it was fun, it was immediate, and it just felt better, so I kept on doing it.
Yeah, I get that.
um
I get that.
yeah.
Whenever I stream, just like having people in chat to interact with, it makes a big difference when you're doing any kind of content, I think. And so, yeah, no, I agree. The Twitch streams, they tend to be a bit more fun, like in the moment,
Yeah.
unless you're like a real big fan of like editing videos or planning and those types of things. And some people are. So
Some people are. So the people who have the brains for that, I mean, power to them. I am not. I don't have that brain. I can do it. I've done it before, but it's like I'm too impatient, and if I don't feel like I'm making progress on a project, I will abandon it a lot of
Mm,
the time if it's like a personal project. So I'll start something, I'll get really into it, and then after like 60% completion, after I've had a couple of games where I feel good about them, I'm like, oh, I did the thing, now I have to do these things. I won't do the next follow-up because I've already got the endorphin from
right.
starting that project. It's a problem.
Yeah. No, I very much relate to that too. Um, so your journey through sort of like Brawlhalla kind of started with, okay, so you found the game in closed beta. You really started to kind of play it in open beta. At some point, you started kind of live streaming, and then you also got involved in the community as a caster and was casting Brawlhalla tournaments as well. About when did that start, and kind of how did that transition happen? Like, when did you kind of make that jump into casting games as well?
Yeah. So it was probably late 2016, early 2017. I had graduated college, came back. I was working two jobs. So one job as a teacher, and then my other job, I was working for a symphony doing operations. And so I'd get home around 6 or 7, and then I would hop online and I would stream for a couple hours, Brawlhalla, ranked, that sort of thing. And so as a Brawlhalla streamer, I had a little Discord community and all of that. And I said, you know what, I want to do some tournaments. And in my head, I think I had the idea of like, look, if I just showed that I can do these really cool monthly tournaments or weekly tournaments or something, it would be cool. Maybe the devs will shout us out or something, or I don't know. I was young. You're hopeful at that age. It worked out for me. I mean, in the long run, we'll get there. But that's kind of how it started. And so I would stream on my channel these tournaments that we would run very poorly at once. Very, very, very poorly. Some of these tournaments were run. We had no idea what we were doing. But I would cast them while streaming them because I didn't have casters, or I did, and they were community members. But you're kind of the all-in-one when you're starting out like that. I funded the prize pool myself. I did all of that myself, and worked with kind of the Discord community we had built to get those off the ground. And I had done that for a little while, and I applied through a Discord forum, Google form on Discord for Brawl League because they were like, we need casters. And I got a Brawl League raid at one point. I was playing like doubles ranked or something. And someone asked about esports, and I was like, yeah, I dropped an application to cast or something like that. And I don't remember, it might have been Antipop, it might have been Slosh. But they were like, oh, what form? Oh. And then I think they checked it, and from there they were like, well, okay, we'll bring you in and we can have you do some stuff. And that's kind of what started it. And it was really scuffed for a while. I have the story of one of the first tournaments we did. One of our players DQ'd out in like top 8, and I
Oh.
had to let someone else from the chat take their place.
What? That's
And I
amazing.
think, honestly, I think I don't remember, but there was a pro player who it might have even been Boomy, to be honest, who was just like, "What the fuck are you doing? You can't fucking do this." It might not have been Boomy, but that's the name that pops into my head. And looking back, it's just so funny because it's like, why would anyone think that's okay? But I think like it's if you don't come from a competitive background and you're not coming
Right.
from that community, like you don't know until you know, and you're like, well, is this really that bad? And then you're like, oh, actually, yeah, this is pretty awful.
I mean, for a small community tournament like that, is it really that bad? But I mean, if you're concerned about tournament integrity, it's pretty
It's
bad,
pretty
right?
bad. It's pretty bad. I mean, there's money on the line, and
Oh,
we didn't
okay.
have the
Actually,
prize pool.
true. I forgot
There's
about
money. I
that.
mean, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like $100 or $50 or something, but like it's money's on the line, right? Like
Sure.
there's like no context in which that's actually an okay thing to do.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
It's pretty funny. I think about that sometimes.
That's awesome. You got pretty well known for your very distinctive kind of style of casting. Can you tell me a little bit about that and like how did you kind of develop your casting style?
Because it's a crutch.
Oh, okay.
Because casting the game, casting any game, but casting Brawlhalla, right? The easiest thing I think anyone can do when they're doing it, and this is what I did, because keep in mind, right? I was never more than a plat player, right? I
Sure.
still have never been diamond in 8 years of the game. I just play the game a lot and I
Mm,
streamed a lot. So I talked a lot about what I was doing in the game while I was streaming. And
right.
that was kind of a lot of the basis for it because I wouldn't do like a play by play while I was streaming. I would still engage with chat, but that kind of um, calling out what I was doing as I was doing it and acknowledging and like calling out just like what the opponent was doing kind of set the basis for that. And
Mm-hmm.
so that led to very like talk fast, be excited, and say things confidently. And while I was doing it, like I was pretty good at calling out. We had fewer legends, way easier back then when you had like 20 legends,
Yeah.
right? um, but it was a lot of that, right? And I look back at it now, and I'm like, if you brought the peak Toast from 2017, 2018 Toast casting and put him into 2023, people would be like, who is this guy? Get him off the mic. And it's true. Like I think I didn't really have the game knowledge in order to do the storytelling part, which I think is the part that makes commentary actually interesting, right?
Sure.
Anyone can look and say down air, side air, signature, signature, down air, side air, X pivot, right? Like all of these things, and they can say them fast into this
Mm-hmm.
play-by-play thing. But taking it to the next step of like, what's the point? Why are you saying those things? Why
Sure.
is that relevant, right? Is something that I don't think I ever actually did well. and I think is a really hard skill to do. I think people just like me because people are attracted to high energy because people feed off of high like viewership. If someone is genuinely excited, they're gonna feel that and they're gonna absorb that, right?
Right.
Um, and I think people criticize things less if they're looking at something where it is projecting confidence, right? And I think in those two things were the things that allowed me to, at the time, kind of establish myself as someone who was doing commentary. Just that I could talk fast and talk confidently, and I was genuinely excited. That's one of the benefits. I'm bad at the game. I'm still bad at the game. So when I see, and back then when I saw pro players do these things where I was like, how the hell did they do that?
Yeah.
Like it's genuine, like, oh shit, that's dope. Like that's really, really cool.
Right.
And so that carries through, and I think that was a lot of it.
I think it's I think it's really kind of a testament to how far kind of the landscape of casting in Brawlhalla in particular has come since the beginning. Because now we really do have these sort of like different levels of casters where you have good color casting, you have good storytelling. Like, this stuff didn't exist really kind of in Brawlhalla back in 2017, 2018. And it's way better now than it used to be. And watching streams and having all of these stories kind of unfold as like a tournament progresses, and you can see the casters that know all of these players and have watched them play for a long time be able to kind of talk about the things that they've done leading up to this event and like what it means for them to have the different levels of performance that each player has. Like, it is something that's kind of evolved over the years, kind of in Brawlhalla. And I think that's actually kind of a good segue to talk about your involvement in production of events, because at some point you kind of made the transition from being behind the mic to behind the camera. And kind of tell me how that transition sort of took place. Like, how did you start to get involved in more of the production side of things, and kind of the beginning there?
Yeah. Well, it started with doing some tournament streaming for Brawl League. I mean, that's really where it started. And back then, if you were streaming a tournament, all you had to do is you had two scenes in OBS. You had gameplay with scoreboard. Shout out to Guy Wakor for making the scoreboard tool that we all used for years. And then you had a scene that was your casters, and you probably did a Discord call or a Zoom call or something like that, or a Google some sort of video call where you threw their webcams in and did a screen crop, and there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And so literally, maybe you had a third team that was starting soon, and thanks for watching if you were fancy, right? But like literally, that was tournament production. It was casters game,
Mm-hmm.
and that was boring. And that was, I mean, honestly, like it was boring. At the core of things, if you look at production today, it actually is basically the same thing. We've just made it more fancy, but we'll get that later. And so that's how it started, and I just started wanting to do things a little better because I was bored, right? I was like, this is something I'm doing. I'm getting paid for it. A little bit of money is cool. I'm bored though. Like, how can we make this a more exciting task for the people who were doing production? And so from there, I started doing more of these production things, and I was lucky I was able to kind of like push a little bit more on what we were doing. And nobody kind of complained or said anything bad about it. And I just kind of ended up settling into that role a lot. And finally, it came to a head 2017, probably 2017. I was looking at what BMG was doing, and I was angry. I was so frustrated because what I was seeing them do, right? And at the time, all my understanding of them was like, they're a company, right? They have resources, they
Mm-hmm.
have money and an office and people and all, you know, like you have this image of a company when you have no idea. When you I was young, right? You're like you think they have everything and they have this infinite pool of resources and that they can do anything and everything they want. Um, and so I looked at it and I was like, this sucks. Like their instant replay solution they're trying doesn't work. Like we can do better. I can do better. I bet I can do better. Which, you know, that was a big kind of motivating factor for me, was trying to prove that with fewer resources we could do more,
Mm-hmm.
and that we could be better. And so actually in 2017 I found BMix. We ran a Brawl League Brawl Ball tournament in the winter, in the off season. Um, and from that I got the free version, which doesn't exist anymore. It only did standard definition, so 480p,
Oh wow.
but I was able to use it because it came with a tool that let you integrate socials to it, so we could grab like Twitter posts and that sort of thing. And so from that, I was able to link that into OBS, do some cropping and stuff. It didn't look too bad at the time. So it was still a 1080/60 stream with a little 480p, like lower third thing that we would pull in tweets and that sort of stuff. And that's
Okay.
where it started. And we started pushing from that. We found instant replay through that. We started building from that. And that took us into 2018, where um, kind of things shifted a little bit, where now Brawl League was more under myself, David, and V, and we were running it a lot more
Mm-hmm.
than we had been before. Right, 2017 was really uh, kind of a transition year for everyone, I think. And from there, we just started pushing and doing more and learning more and trying to just figure out, hey, how can we bring in elements that we're seeing in other games into this game and into this production. I will shout out that we were able to do that in part because I was working two jobs and I had money. I was living at home. I had no real expenses, like
Right.
privilege, but like I have to acknowledge that having that privilege and having a little bit of bank that I could spend on a vMix license that is my own, I still use it today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was a really big deal because it was the thing that gave us the tools to really push the envelope and go much, much farther um, than what we had been doing. Yeah. And so that's kind of like, that's where it started. It just got started from being bored and wanting to be better and wanting to be less bored and wanting to put on better shows and just looking and seeing and figuring out how good we could be. In 2018, we did all of the online tournaments for BMG. We had been doing that a little bit in 2017, but 2018 it was even more. So we were kind of the production team. So we did all our Brawl League tournaments with the names with puns.
Mm-hmm.
We never did Brawl Me Maybe, which I resent to this day.
That's
But
a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity.
thank you. Everyone said it's past the point. It's not relevant anymore.
No,
Anyways,
missed opportunity.
missed opportunity. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Vindication.
So at some point you transitioned from doing Brawl League stuff, doing some online stuff for BMG here and there. Kind of where in this timeline does Bagel fit into things?
2019.
Okay.
So we had been running Brawl League for a while, and V and Lapstick and myself, we got together one day, and this kind of happened at BCX in 2018. That's the BCX where we all got smoked out because the smoke kept pumping into the
Yeah.
venue.
Yeah.
Great event. DreamHack. That was a DreamHack one. But we got together and we were chatting and we were like, hey, what if we just asked if we could do the in-person stuff for BMG next year? What if we just, you know? And so half jokingly, I went to FOTA one day and I said, hey, we do all the online stuff. What if we just did all of your offline stuff too? And he was like, okay, sure. Um,
Was
or
it
else
really that
I'll-
easy?
It was literally, it was that easy. It was like, oh, okay, okay. And it was a little bit like, all right, now we need to actually figure this out. We had no plan. We had no idea what we were doing. And so we handed Brawl League off to Expired and his team, and we created Bagel, which it's Bagel with two G's, Baggel, for a number of reasons, what we called it. And we sat down, we figured out, we said, okay, we're now the three of us, we're going to figure out what we're going to do for Brawlhalla, how we're going to do all of their events, and, you know, like what financially that means for us too. And so we made Bagel a real company, and we had our first event, which was Final Round in 2019. And so for this to happen, we needed to be on LAN. And the transition to go from an online tournament to an in-person tournament on the production level is way, way different. They're just completely different beasts. You can do online stuff all day, and the minute you take into the real world, there are growing pains. I mean, it is really a completely different challenge. Plus, the moment that you have to deal with, it's a lot easier nowadays in 2023. But the moment that you start dealing with high refresh rate monitors and capturing those, splitting those, it actually becomes a big problem because 144 hertz is not a standard. Like, it's not a broadcast standard. So you don't have a lot of gear out there that really handles that sort of signal. And if you look at just the raw data rates, right, like a 1080p 60 frame per second, 60 FPS feed is 3 gigabits. You know, like that's a lot. It's a lot of data.
Right.
You're more than doubling that to get 144 frames. Now we're up to 240. So you think about that, that kind of tooling is really expensive and also is niche and doesn't exist, especially at that time. And so we're lucky in that Boda had already kind of figured out a way to get around some of that with she had this box, we still have it, that splits display monitor display ports, but DisplayPort as a technology isn't designed to be split really, and so it was kind of buggy, and like you had to like spin around 3 times, clap twice, and like pray that it will work today, and sometimes it would, and then we would take one HDMI feed out of the machine at 60 hertz using Windows mirroring. That's why in 2019 you'd have offered things like, oh, the monitor flickered on stage, that sort of thing.
Right.
But that transition, what I'm trying to get to, is really difficult. And so we had a budget of just under, I think, $3,000 for final rounds to get everything together and figure out everything out. And also, that's what we would also like. That was to cover any investment into gear we had, and also whatever we were going to get paid out of the event with.
That does not sound like a lot of money.
It's not, but we made it work. So I had a computer. I think my production computer, I managed to like get it into a smaller case. I went on eBay and I found a capture card with 8 inputs, bidirectional, so they could be inputs or outputs. That normally retails for $3,000, and I was able to get it for under $1,000. And that was a big save. You could get a brand new one from a different company for $1,000, but you're looking at like a feature set difference, and we were thinking like maybe this gamble could pay out for us in the long run. We get a better piece of gear that will be more high quality, whatever. And so I did that. We put it in. I had my personal GH4 like video camera, and then we bought, they were the Crazy Fire HDs. They were $90 cameras on Amazon that had a SDI output on them, like basically like little tiny security cameras, almost like really, really small. You had to manually focus them. The colors of them were terrible, just all sorts of garbage with them. But we managed to make it work. We got everything, and we got it together, and we built our graphics package, and we had all of these dreams and hopes, and we got the final round, and we showed up, and we set up, on the stage. We put up our little player cameras. We put up our big wide shot camera in the back to show the full stage. And we built these graphics that, we came into the year. This was also when we created stats, right? This is the first time that Brawlhalla had stats in a broadcast. And we did a lot of things, right? We took green screen pictures of players and we put them into, for top eight, because top eight was right on Sunday, which is still something we do today, right? We literally green screened pictures of the players in top eight, cut them out, and built them into our stinger transitions. We grabbed some footage from like old Brawlhalla trailers, and we like did a really poor job keying out the flaming logo. And we did this all like, we just like didn't sleep that weekend. Like really, it was like 2 a.m. and people were playing in the arcade, and we were just like, no, we're working with, we got all this stuff to do. And we got it. And the machine that we were using, right? This machine was doing graphics, cameras, replay, and also streaming. Like it's too much our own machine. And so we hit that first stinger, and it showed the 2 player images, and it worked, and like the crowd actually cheered. And then we showed stats, and the crowd was like, oh, and they like kind of cheered at the time. They're like, oh shit, it's stats. Like we got statistics. Damn.
Yeah.
And that was a really cool moment. And all those stats, none of that was automatic. All of those were by hand. If you ever get a chance to talk to David, ask him how he literally went back and counted every single placement from every tournament up until that point, and then maintained a spreadsheet for that shit.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's the that's his story to tell. But yeah, the data stuff is crazy. But there we are at that event, right? Friday's great. Saturday work. Halfway through Saturday, this 8-port capture card, right? You've got 4 on top, 4 on bottom. 4 of them on top died. So
oh no,
we only had 4, right? And when you think about it, they're bidirectional. So one of them is an output. So one of them is the thing that's actually feeding the projector. One of them is taking your gameplay input, and then you have 2. So the most we could do was take in really 1 extra camera. And so we ended up pivoting, and for the player cam, if you go back at the footage, you can see it. For the player cameras, starting Saturday, and I don't know if I fixed it for Sunday, but we ended up taking our wide stage shot and just cropped it a couple times, and that was the player cameras that we used on that broadcast. Wow. We got it fixed. We used that card. I still have it. It's actually about to go into another machine as soon as the new motherboard gets here on Monday. So it was a good purchase. We got it fixed. It broke again 6 months, 7 months later, but I only need 4 inputs. So, but that's how it started, and that's kind of how it went. And each LAN that we ended up doing, we looked at what we did at the previous one, and we figured out what we needed to change to do better, what gear we needed to buy, and like what extra things we could add. And we tried a lot of stuff that didn't work. I think it was a Dallas, Dallas, we tried doing, we called them bagel bites, where we got the players who were going to go into top 8, and we grabbed them backstage to get them to talk shit about each other, and like do like little minute interviews that we could then take and throw up before their matches on Sunday on finals day. And that didn't work. Like all the files got corrupted, and we were like, well, okay, that sucks. We just wasted everyone's time. But like that was it was there. Or we'd have times where, for whatever reason, all of the audio just broke. There was no audio, and it didn't work. And we were like, what's happening? And we'd have to restart the stream and restart the machines. And you have all these single points of failure, and you're like, well, this needs to split. And so one of the first things we did, I built another machine, mostly on personal parts, that we brought with us, and that was our render machine. And so we would actually take an NDI feed from our vMix machine, send it over to an OBS instance on another computer, and then that would stream it. And that helped make things a lot better. And then oh man, there's so 2019 was great. We did so many things wrong, and we did a few things right. It was a good time though. I couldn't do it again. I mean, we were working full-time jobs.
I mean, the level of like effort and polish that kind of goes into these events just gets better and better over time. And like you talk about doing a lot of stuff wrong in the beginning, but you still put on a great show, I think, back then. And it's only gotten better kind of as time has gone on.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for saying that. I think a lot of the value is, one, we did it together. We were a team. It wasn't just me. It was B and it was left. Like, they were critical to making things work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it was just a lot of work and a lot of like hopes and dreams, and it was fun. We got to travel, we got to do cool things, and I mean, we didn't sleep. You know, we'd get in Thursday morning, sometimes Wednesday day. We'd go out in the city. We would film B-roll of the city, take it back, edit the B-roll up into those starting soon packages that you used to see with the shots of the city. And then Thursday we would, all of the setup would happen. You know, we'd get on the knees, crawling under stages and stuff, running cables. I had this big green duffel bag that just everything. I'm gonna send you this. Remind me to send you this picture later. I have a picture of. I would travel with 6 suitcases with like 250 pounds of gear every time we would do one of these things.
Wow.
Something like that. And David had a couple suitcases himself too, and that's how we would do it. And to make it cheaper, we made media badges. We're a legitimate media company, so it's okay. But I went on to this like ID badge creator website, and I made a badge for myself with a photo and a barcode. And if you looked at the barcode numbers, it said 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But that was enough that we would get the better deal going on flights and flying everywhere with all our stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really was a good year for us. We still did the onlines, we did the offlines, and we did a good enough job that they were like, well, okay, we'll keep you going and we'll give you a little bit more money next year. And then 2020 happened, and COVID happened, and you know, we were all in Orlando for that one, for when that happened. You were there, weren't you?
I ended up not coming out to Dreamland because of COVID, but I'm local to the area. I could have been there, but yeah.
That was a fun event. It was Thursday night, I think. No, it was Wednesday at like 2 a.m. I had just, or maybe it was Thursday, I don't know. I had taken days off of work, and we were having a beer, like a Wawa. We got like a beer from a Wawa's or something, which you can do in Florida. You can't do that in Massachusetts. And we were sitting there catching up, me, V, and David, and we looked at Twitter, and that's how we found out the event got canceled.
Yeah.
We were like, we're here. We were like, what? What's happening? But like, for that event, we had so much planned. I still have the footage. We did a media day with the players where I have footage of like 12 to 15 players and FOTA talking about what they were looking forward to in 2020, the 240 hertz monitors, or maybe they were 140 hertz. They were probably 144 hertz at that time. Maybe. No, they were 240. Those were the Omen, the HP Omen monitors.
Yeah, I remember when that transition kind of got hyped, and then everything went to COVID. So,
I mean, I actually think it's pretty good. Silver lining is that I think that the system that we had come up with to capture the 240 hertz monitors would have actually failed in practice.
Interesting.
Our testing showed that it worked, but I think, and I feel pretty confident that it would have worked until things got warm, and then it would have not worked.
Okay.
Or it would have worked, and the players would have noticed that it was impacting frame rate.
Gotcha.
And I don't know that for sure, but we've tried similar things since on some of these charity streams too. We've done similar things, and it's not a one-to-one, but it's close enough that there's part of me that feels like it wouldn't have been the final solution for this system.
Gotcha.
So, silver lining. Yeah. And then we did 2020. All with VMix. One of the big things for us was realizing we could hire other people. You know, that we didn't have to do it all, just the three of us. And that's when we got Durga involved and Expired involved. Durga still does replay for us. replays all this coming weekend for autumn doubles. That's going to be Zurga. Zurga did week Friday night and Sunday night last weekend for singles. And we started hiring Frone in 2021, I want to say. 2020 was, yeah. I don't know.
So
I'm going on and on and on, so I'll shut up.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It's great. It's all great information. Love hearing all of it. So at some point, you guys transitioned from Bagel to actually working directly for BMG, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what was kind of the genesis for that transition, and is Bagel still a thing today? Will it still be a thing in the future? Like, what's kind of the plan there?
Yeah, Bagel is not a thing anymore. We closed the company officially. It made taxes really difficult for a few years.
Yeah.
So what happened was David got hired first. Lefstick got hired first,
Mm-hmm.
and he kept on working for Bagel, which I think worked really well because it meant that we had someone who had more direct contact when we had questions. But I think it also worked really well because David is really good at. We never had foreknowledge of anything coming down the line, even when David was with us. Like our amount that we knew about the game and what was planned in development and coming up was the exact same after he got hired as before he got hired, which is to say that he was really good at not letting this being in the like a third party and also a first party thing change anything in the dynamic or really impact the business at all.
He was good at keeping
and
that
was really good for us.
separation.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Thank you. And so that was really good for us. And he started, and I had a career in education, which is what I wanted to do for a living. It's what I went to school for. It's what my degree is in. And so for me, I was like, this is still fun. And because this is fun, and because the money is starting to get actually decent on top of what I'm making in my full-time job, I can keep doing this because I don't need this, right? I did not need Bagel. I had a full-time job. I had a career path. I had all of these things. And that was Bagel was like that for a couple of years. David got hired, I want to say in 2020. He got hired in 2020, so he was there for quite a bit longer than I've been now. It really, for me, what happened was I hit a point during COVID in 2021, and COVID and education, as I'm sure you know, is not a fun mix.
Yeah.
And I loved my job and I loved my team, but there were days where I would take my lunch break and go sit in my car and just put my head in my lap and just like disassociate for an hour and then come back and keep working. It got so bad to the point where I would get an email after hours and the anxiety would just skyrocket. It was bad. I've done COVID tracing because of that. Your customer service. At the time, I wasn't doing teaching. I was doing community management and programs, like running programs for before and after school and that sort of thing. And it was just a lot. And it was a year of a lot, right? We'd already been in COVID for over a year at that point. I hit a point, man, and I was like, I can't do this. This is not worth it. I'm not happy. Like, I'm not healthy. Like, I'm just always like, it always feels bad. Everything feels bad. This feels bad. And so I went to FODA and I was like, okay, it's time. Because he had tried. They had tried a couple times before in the past, and for me, I said no. It wasn't like an official offer, but it was like a, hey, should you be interested, that sort of thing. And
right.
a lot of it for me was that at the time, teaching and education was my thing, right? That was what I wanted to do. That was what I foresaw myself doing for 30, 40, 50 years, right?
Right.
And I think also when you've kind of invested all that time into something, coming to the realization and emotionally becoming okay with the idea of like, oh, maybe this isn't it. I think that's a journey, you know, that takes time.
Yeah.
And for me, the catalyst for that really was, wow, I'm I'm probably only ever gonna make shit money. And I live in a high cost of living area, and I am always tired, and I don't have time to do free things, and I don't even get summers off because I'm admin, and I don't even, you know, I don't get admin, I don't get like the teacher schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And parents are sometimes lovely, but sometimes they just go after you for blood and COVID and administration and everything. It was just too much. And I was like, I have enjoyed doing this production stuff and this casting stuff and this video game stuff at that point for like 3 or 4 years. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, that's a pretty big constant to enjoy. Let's try this. And that was in 2021. In August of 2021 is when I got hired at BMG. And I was remote for the rest of that year, and I moved down here in 2022 in January. But when I got hired, it was basically like, look, 2 out of 3 of us were hired. There's no, like, you can't run a company where the majority of the employees work for the other company and are paying the, you know, like,
Yeah.
it's weird, and it gets double dippy, and like it's probably like illegal. There's probably a bunch of stuff there where it's like, well, maybe this is just really weird, and like it's probably, maybe it's not illegal, but it's probably not good practice and that sort of
Sure.
thing. So we closed that bagel at that point. I mean, it's still roughly the same team running things, but like Bagel as a company ceases to exist. We still have our Twitch channel, and when things ease up and we have free time again, which is never, I really would love to just do some freelance stuff on Bagel again, just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
I did some Valorant stuff at one point in 2021, say in 2021, and we did some stuff for Super Animal Royale.
Yep.
And we did the Mario Kart thing once. Like, all of those things are fun because they push the skill set in different directions, right? Because the challenge with Brawlhalla, and then I think the fun thing with Brawlhalla, or with anyone who's doing just one game, is you run up against the idea of like, what can I do now? Like, what else can I
Mm-hmm.
add? I've done all that I can do, you know, what's next? And that's a really challenging thing, but it's also a fun challenge in that you don't, the gains you get are smaller now than you did when you switch to new games. It's like it's, you know, new things. You have so many objectives you can get quickly and things to learn, and then something you've been doing for 6 years, you have to keep looking at it and looking at the small things and thinking, is this okay? How can I make this better? Can I iterate
Right.
on this? Is this going to be a cool thing? And that's kind of the challenge. So again, I think I went off topic there, but
No, that's fine. That's fine. This has been great. One thing that I like to ask people, and you kind of already talked about this a little bit earlier, which was kind of your progression in the game itself, and like where you learned how to play the game. Was it just from just playing? Did you look at like resources online, like guides or anything like that? And then like you mentioned that your highest rank was plat.
yeah, I think I broke 1700 at one point, and I think that's my record still.
Oh
In
wow.
like season 1 or season 0 or something. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I mostly just played the game. Uh, I watched a couple of Dobrain's videos.
Hmm.
Um, that was it, really. Nothing crazy like that. I just played the game. I played ranked. I would just hop on the ladder and I'd be like, I'm gonna play ranked today. Um,
Nice.
that was it. Um, I do want to call out, just with everything I've talked about, that getting to now has been the result of, yes, a lot of hard work,
Mm-hmm.
but it's literally impossible to have gotten to here without having an amazing group of people doing that work with me and supporting and kind of on that same path, right?
Right.
And many people who I haven't named so far. And then also just honestly having a lot of luck, right? Just like being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And like that's, I think it's just important to acknowledge those things, and more than that, like having the ability in my life to do those things. In 2017, Photo messaged me the week before summer championship, was like, "Hey, Boston's not that far from Atlanta. You want to come down?" And I was like, "Sure." And I thought they were going to buy me a flight, and he was like, "No, I thought you could drive." And so I was able to drive 21 hours to do that event and drive back 21 hours, right?
Oh
And like,
wow.
I can't deny that that kind of being able to do that, right? Be like, hey, I'm here unpaid. I'm here. I'm a homie. I'm down to be down to do stuff and
Mm-hmm.
cool stuff, right? Like at that point, like I didn't even think I had a job I had to take off to do that. I think it was in the summer. So I was lucky enough to have that context to be able to do that, right?
Yeah, not a lot of
And I think
people
that's
are
just,
able to do that, like be able to in the moment at short notice drive 21 hours from one place
you
to
had to have a
another.
car, you had to have
Yeah.
the finances and the backing not to be able to take time off of work if you have a job. Like
Yeah.
I can't talk about this path without acknowledging that I have been incredibly lucky and fortunate to have access to the tools and resources and
Mm-hmm.
background that I have had all my life to be there, because I think that is important to acknowledge, right? It's like,
Sure.
for what it's worth, just
No, I agree. I agree.
I got
It's
lucky.
it's been it's also been interesting watching and you might have some good insight on this because we just had him on the show last week. Sandwick kind of come up on the production side of things and the work that he's put in to make sort of like the NSIG tournaments better. And I know that he is doing some work for BMG now too. And there is something to be said for like doing hard work in like an interesting way to make things better for like the community, make
Mhm.
things easier for the people involved with like the development or the production. Like all of these things are also like ways, paths to getting more involved in these things too, right?
Absolutely. I think too, I like to look at the numbers. It's something, I would say roughly a quarter of the employees all came from the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like salaried full-time BMG staff are probably about 25% of them were community members first. Um, and I think even with Sandwick, like he's doing video stuff for us now, which is sick, but like he runs most side streams for broadcast. And with him too, like what's really cool is that he it's like he enjoys it, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, really important. Um, and that's something that I like. You need to enjoy the thing that you're investing your time into. Otherwise, it's not worth it for you, right? Like,
Right.
and there's a trap there with any kind of community management, or like not like official community management, but like running a community or taking a structural role in a hobby or something like that, right? It's like it's very easy to get wrapped up in, I'm an important cog in this machine, and so I have to keep doing this
Mm-hmm.
because there's no one else to do this. And you kind of can very quickly lose sight of, hey, I did this because I love this. I did this because I like it.
Right.
Um, and I think that's a really, really like important thing that people should never lose sight of, is like, you do a thing because you like it, and if you don't like it, stop doing
Mm-hmm.
it. Especially if it's a hobby or if it's like something you're doing for fun initially. Like there's a grind set mentality, I think, that a lot of people take with like hobbies and stuff, and I'm like, no, just have fun, like engage
Yeah.
with it to the amount that feels healthy for you to engage with, and then let that be a spectrum. You don't always have to be 110% all of the time, and that's
Mhm.
okay. You got me on a soapbox. Anyways, I mean to say that, like, uh exactly what you're saying, like people who are active and building and excited and doing all these really cool things in the community, like that's so important, and like that's like that is seen, I think, by a lot of folks. I see it, Left Stick sees it, like we all kind of see that. And at least on the production side, I look for the folks who are doing the production on community tournaments,
Mm.
and what I want to see for me specifically is, what are they doing that's different? What are
Mm.
they doing that is better? Or what are they trying that maybe it doesn't work, but they're trying something? And it's in this weird position where the official stuff kind of sets a standard and folks try to meet that standard. And I kind of hate that, because I want to look at the community events and I want to see some idea out there that's so cool that I'm going to be like, I'm doing that. I'm feeling that. Like that to me is like the magic right there, and that's what I wish we saw more of. But even that, like you're saying, the quality of the stuff is so high lately, and people are doing a really good job. But what's the point I'm trying to make here?
I
Do
think.
cool things, and do cool things just to do cool things, and they
Yeah.
don't have to be like a copy of other things, right? Like
I
even if it doesn't work.
I think a good point here is that the official stuff is high enough quality at this point that it's difficult for a community stream to kind of meet that bar. And so if you want to differentiate yourself like as a community event, you should be looking for like more interesting ways that you can play against a different way of doing things to get attention, rather than trying to meet the very high bar that the official streams have kind of set.
Well, I'll tell you what the area that folks can do that in, right? And where that lives, right? Because the official streams have resources, which is always an incredible tool, right? If you have
Mm-hmm.
resources to get tech, or to hire someone to design, or hire, like that is a very significant thing. The area that almost everyone is lacking, including the mainstream, right, including us, is in the storytelling, in the scope of who these players are, and highlighting the players in a deeper fashion, right? If you look at, and part of it is because we're a fighting game, and fighting game is a lot of show the gameplay, go, 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 game now,
Sure.
game now, game
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
stop
yeah.
talking. Even just recently, we had there's people are tweeting like, why do they do a pre-show? Why is there a 30-minute timer? Like, let
Yeah.
the process happen, right?
Right.
Like this is really important, because things like the pre-show set up a storyline, they set up a basis, and they create a intro point for new viewers, and an intro point
Yep.
for people who aren't living and breathing Twitter and Discord and that sort of thing. But more than that, like if you watch any traditional sport, or you watch Rocket League or Valorant or CSGO or anything like that, what they do really well is they look at the team, or they look at the player, and you get a really good idea for who that player is, why this tournament is important for that player, um, what their path through that bracket has been. And so that kind of more produced storyline, right? Because our casters do a phenomenal job of talking about the storyline and building that up. But it's like, what is the production doing to support that storyline?
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I don't think you need a lot of resources on a technical level to do, right? It can be as simple as, hey, pro player, get in the call with me. Let's talk about how you're feeling about this bracket, and record it, cut it up a little bit, and throw that out there. That kind of content insert is like, even if everything else about the stream quality wise is shit, and you're bringing in that player perspective or that player idea, or you're putting them up there and kind of like using their brand, or leveraging their brand, or highlighting their brand, or something interesting about them, I think that makes the broadcast so much more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I think community could do really, really well, because a lot of these community orgs are running these community tournaments, and so it's like the people who run the org are best friends with the pro players themselves. So I'm like, just connect the
Yeah.
dots and do the thing really well, and even if it sucks, like it's still really going to be really cool.
Right.
And that's an area where I'm like, mainstream should be doing more of it. We're not.
Nice. Maybe something to look forward to for next year?
I have some ideas.
Okay. Okay.
We have some ideas. 2024 is if everything that's in here and has been planned out with the team happens, I think it'll be a good year.
Nice. Nice. Well, we're coming up on BCX, and BCX always the biggest event of the year for Brawlhalla. I mean, it's the Brawlhalla World Championship. Last year was crazy. Like, absolutely gangbusters, phenomenal event. Like, best Brawlhalla event I've ever been a part of. I was like, hats off to you, the team, everyone. Like, was an amazing event. Obviously, you can't leak anything about like special stuff that might be happening at the event, but as far as like scale for BCX, are we thinking like similar to last year? Are you guys trying to do anything bigger? Will it be crazier? Like, what's kind of the game plan for BCX this year?
So the idea has always been refine 2022. So 2022 is meant to kind of feel like a baseline, so this should be better.
Okay.
It's same venue, same space. The stage is going to look different. It's a different design to the stage layout, which I'm pretty excited. Sidestream has a different design too, and we've upgraded that a little bit, so the viewing experience should be better for the folks there, because you just sometimes we had huge crowds over there, and sometimes you get huge crowds over on main stage, which is cool. I can say that most of the stuff that people liked about BCX 2022 should be making a return.
Okay.
It's going to be a great event. I'm honestly very truly excited. People have been working on this since basically since February, so it should be pretty good.
Wow.
What can I share? Is there anything I can share about the event? I mean, honestly, it's going to be BCX. You're going to show up and be like, wow, this event is sick AF, and all my friends are here. It's going to be dope. And you guys talked about it on your podcast the other night, but we did get a hotel block, which was a big challenge this year.
Yeah.
It was something we've been trying to get for actually quite some time, but because of the Atlanta Braves World Series, and it's almost certainly looking like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's tough to get hotels because a lot of folks will be here for those games. It's like in the same area too, but the hotel we got, $109 a night is good. Is good in general.
Yeah, that's actually kind of a crazy price considering the event going on around BCX as well. So
yeah. So we're excited to have that. It's about a 15-20 minute walk, according to Google, from the venue. But
okay,
it's Georgia, so it's not exactly like it's going to be freezing. And folks, we're looking at seeing if we can do some shuttle stuff. No promises. Again, it's lots of logistics to kind of figure out there. But we're just trying to get more folks to show up. It was great last year, and this year is going to be even better. Nice. We've been finalizing the competitive format. We're not doing any funky brackets this year. So last year, I don't know if you remember, we were going to do a really cool Swiss style, like double Swiss into a double elimination type bracket. Like it was complicated, but it was going to be the thing that got people the most gameplay.
Right.
Right. Our thing last year was like, how do we do this in a way where we get people who show up and go 0-2 to be able to play more.
That was kind of the point of Waterfall back in the day too.
Yeah, but Waterfall was too much for everybody.
Everybody ended up playing like 10 games or something crazy.
I feel like every couple of years we'll see a pro player be like, Waterfall was great. It was actually pretty good. And then I look at that and I'm like, you don't remember how you felt.
I remember.
And I'm like, Waterfall was a lot. It
It
was
was a
cool,
lot.
but it was a lot, you
It
know?
was fun to play though. Like in the moment when you're there, actually getting to play more than like a
Right.
couple of sets is nice. So I agree with like that sentiment of like how do we get people to have the ability to play more and feel like they were like a bigger part of the tournament, right?
Yeah, and the limiting factor comes down to setup. And
Mm-hmm.
this is the tricky thing. So we are okay, I'm gonna tell you some stuff about BCX.
Okay.
Because we're talking about it. I don't think it's gonna change.
Don't leak too much, but
And here's me putting on the hat that says anything can and will change. But we're
it's like a
sitting
dev
like
stream at this point. We've got the
it's a
umbrella.
little bit like a dev stream. I'm leaking some stuff. So and maybe this will be published by the time this episode comes out soon. um, as it stands, it should be best of 5 all the way through the bracket.
Okay.
The caveat to that and the kind of the concession that we have to make for that, the big concession that we have to make for that is that round 1 or phase 1 potentially will, if we're singles, will be split screen.
Okay.
Which again, looking at it, it's like it's a trade-off and it's a hard decision to make because obviously you want, what I would like to say is I have enough machines and monitors to have everyone on together, right? But monitors are expensive, and then the machines that we run on are expensive. And the problem we run into is that, unfortunately, for something to be the most in competitive integrity event, all setups have to be identical. So it's not even like I can pull in the 2020 Nook that we were going to run for the 2020 year and supplement with those because they're different. They visually they look identical, but the processors and the GPUs on the inside are different.
Okay.
And so the last thing that I want for any player, right, for any competitor in any sport really is to say for them to say I lost because of external factors.
Right.
If you lose, you should lose because you suck. That was mean. If you lose, you should lose because your opponent was better than you, and that should be it, right? Like that's the ultimate goal, and that's the pinnacle. Is like everything is the same, so the only thing that is being tested is fighter versus fighter.
Yeah.
You know, like
Player skill.
Exactly, and so that's a tricky thing because we have 85 setups. And we can't deploy all 85 setups because we have to hold a few back for swaps. And so it's just a tricky thing, right? Like especially at an event like BCX where we're gonna sell out of competitor. Like there's a limit. There is a limit. Right now, like I'll tell you, it's not on start GG, but once that number goes above 700, we're probably gonna have to find a cap shortly after that to put on it because we simply don't have the time to do it. All right, it's like those are the two factors. You have physical setups, which are a huge investment in money, like financially, right? But also in setup time, breakdown time, maintenance, and and kind of making sure they're identical. Like even as it is, like we've used some of those Nooks for other things this year. Every Nook of our 85 Nooks that's going to be used for competitive is going to get re-imaged and reset up before BCX, and that takes a long time. We can't just hook them up into one switch and do like the magic windows thing for some reason. There's a good reason why we can't do it, but there's a lot of that goes in, and so it's this balance. It's like if we can make BCX 4 days, but then you're looking at paying a 4th day of staffing, you're looking at paying a 4th day of stream, you're looking at paying a 4th day of venue, and you're probably shifting your setup days to be earlier, so you're just adding in a lot more overhead there.
You're also making it more difficult for the attendees with travel and yeah.
We still trend young, so folks are in school, folks are in college, folks have job. Well, having job is not a young or old thing; it's just a thing. But, and so it's there's a lot of stuff that goes into these, like how we do the tournament schedule and how we approach events, because it is a weird balance of like best in-person experience, actually fits inside of a budget, actually fits inside the resources we have available, and so on and so forth. And it's a bit tricky. And I would like eventually for BCX to be something where at least the first round or two is not a double elimination. You go 0-2 and you're done.
Right.
That's not this year. There's actually like part of my plan for BCX this year is I'm gonna grab a couple of other small form factor PCs that are maybe a little cheaper than what we're using for currently, and get some pro players to field them out and see if we can find another machine that can work.
Okay.
Not because I want to cycle out our inventory, but because you need backups, right? At some point, the computers that we use now will stop being manufactured, and if they break, then we have a finite supply, and we need to have something that we can replace it with. Okay, I'm like, you're getting me into like friend mode now. Where,
yeah.
Where like I'm too inside baseball. I'm too inside baseball. So I'm gonna stop here. This is like not interesting for folks. It's like BCX gonna be sick. Go to BCX.live. Sign up at BCX.live. Remember that you need to sign up on both the Eventbrite and StartGG to compete. Not one or the other. You have to do both. And StartGG will charge you a $1 fee, so that we make sure that you're actually a real human and not a bot or someone signing up just to get those rewards. There's my PSA. Do
awesome.
that. And I'm no more.
No,
I got too comfy.
No, that's actually a good stopping point. We're a little over an hour in. Do you have anything going on that you would like to shout out other than BCX? Anything interesting, Brawlhalla or not Brawlhalla related?
BCX is the main thing, but definitely the Autumn Royale, October 13th and 14th.
Yep.
These have just been some of my favorite events that we've done. Round robin is cool.
I agree.
Watch the Royale, support the Royales, because they benefit a very small portion of our audience, but they're also, I think, some of the coolest things that we do with our audience. So watch the Royale, support the Royales. Yeah, that's it. Play Loki.
Oh yeah, I was not prepared for Loki to come out today, but
it's been fun watching everyone speculate, and even you guys on your first episode of your podcast talk about it's gonna come out later. He's gonna come out later.
We were half right.
I was sitting there. I was like,
we were half right. Oh man, but that's what makes it fun. So we can be wrong about things, but it's still fun to speculate. So, well, thank you for coming on, Toast. I really appreciate it. This was a great chat, and I'm really excited for this episode to come out because this is one of the ones that I was really looking forward to doing this season. So,
yeah, thanks for having me on. This is awesome. I'm glad you're doing this. I mean, I think I told you the other day, but like, no one's really doing this in this space, and I think it is something that is just super beneficial and kind of sick for it. Like, it's good for it.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks for watching episode 5 of Brawlhalla Origins. Episode 6 comes out next week on October 23rd. Our next guest is Stefanifro. Leave a comment on YouTube or tweet at me with the hashtag Brawlhalla Origins to let me know your thoughts on the show. If you enjoyed this and want to see more, please subscribe and share. Don't forget to check out brawlacademy.com. Thanks. Thank you.